Disease and illness have plagued humanity since earliest days. Widespread trade created a new opportunities for human and clinical interactions that sped up such epidemics, and some of the widely spread epidemics are plague. Plague originated in Europe in 14th century and was transmitted to humans via rats infected with the bacterium Yersinia pestis. In 1347, initially, it had killed roughly 1 lakh people but ended up claiming 200 million lives by the end of 1351. And another life-threatening epidemic was cholera, originating in India, which was caused by bacterium Vibrio cholerae, which leads to acute diarrheal illness by infecting the intestine. 6 different outbreaks in different geographical locations between 1817 to 1923 claimed 1 million lives globally. World War I boosted the spread of diseases even more. One such disease was flu, an exceptionally deadly global influenza pandemic caused by H1N1 influenza A virus, which transmitted in the hospital camps, which was an ideal site for spreading of respiratory viruses. Meanwhile, an infectious outbreak of polio originated in US in 1894, which mainly affects children under 5 years. Transformation of polio into epidemic disease occurred in industrial countries like America and Europe. Poliovirus cases have decreased by over 99% since 1988 due to the discovery of the vaccines. The recent outbreak which shook the world is coronavirus, which was first identified in Wuhan, China. Experts say SARS-CoV-2 originated in bats, which spread in Wuhan's open-air wet markets. Initial transmission spread from animals to humans, which later led to human-human transmission, which had its impact globally. 29.5 crore cases were reported worldwide, whereas it claimed 54.6 lakh lives. Pharmacy is the branch of health sciences dealing with the preparation, dispensing, and proper utilization of drugs. As we know, pharmaceutics is the discipline of pharmacy that deals with the process of turning a new chemical entity or old drugs into a medication to be used safely and effectively by patients. Pharmaceutics deals with the formulation of a pure drug substance into a dosage form. It was in the 9th century around Baghdad where the profession of pharmacy started acquiring shape. It slowly spread to Europe as alchemy and finally developed into chemistry. The first known chemical process was carried out by the artisans of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China. However, in the 19th century, it completely sprouted out from the medicine and started developing as a separate profession. This happened only when the role of pharmacist as a compounder of medicines were identified and differentiated from physician, whose role was accepted as a therapist. The practice in those times was restricted to compounding, dispensing medication, and manufacturing medicaments in bulk, but not for general sale. The medicament commonly produced was simple elixirs, spirits, and powders, in contrast to the complex pharmaceutical remedies of the present era. In 1821, first school of pharmacy was published in US at Philadelphia. The first US pharmacopoeia was published in 1820. American Pharmacists Association was founded in 1852. The first national formulary was published in 1888. Just after the publication of the report by Professor M.L. Shroff, the committee initiated pharmaceutical education at the university level in the Banaras Hindu University. In 1935, United Province Pharmaceutical Association was established, which was later converted into Indian Pharmaceutical Association. The Indian Journal of Pharmacy was started by Professor M.L. Shroff in 1939. All India Pharmaceutical Congress Association was established in 1940. The Pharmaceutical Conference held its sessions at different places to publicize pharmacy as a whole. 1937, Government of India bought Import of Drugs Bill. Later, it was withdrawn. 1940, Government bought Drugs Bill to regulate the import, manufacture, sale, and distribution of drugs in British India. The bill was finally adopted as Drugs Act of 1940. 1941, the first Drugs Technical Advisory Board under this act was constituted. Central Drugs Laboratory was established in Calcutta. 1945, Drugs Rule under the Drugs Act of 1940 was established. The Drugs Act has been modified from time to time, and at present, the provisions of the Act cover cosmetics, Ayurvedic, Unani, and homeopathic medicines in some respects. 1945, Government bought the Pharmacy Bill to standardize the pharmacy education in India. 1946, the Indian Pharmacopoeia list was published under the chairmanship of late Colonel R.N. Chopra. It contains list of drugs in use in India at that time which are not included in British Pharmacopoeia. 1948, Pharmacy Act 1948 was published. 1948, Indian Pharmacopoeial Committee was constituted under the chairmanship of late Dr. B.N. Ghosh. 1949, Pharmacy Council of India was established under Pharmacy Act 1948. 1954, Education Regulation came in force in some states but other states lagged behind. And in 1954, Drugs and Magic Remedies Act 1954 was passed to stop misleading advertisements. In 1955, Medicinal and Toilet Preparations Act 1955 was introduced to enforce uniform duty for all states for alcohol products. In 1955, first edition of Indian Pharmacopoeia was published. 1985, Narcotic and Psychotropic Substance Act has been enacted to protect society from the dangers of addictive drugs. Government of India controls the price of drugs in India by drugs price order that is changed from time to time. Dating back to the history of pharmacy education in India, the inception of pharmacy profession in India was marked by the first class of the chemist and druggist conducted at the Madras Medical College in 1870s to train students to gain skills in pharmacy practice. Pharmacy education pattern was based on the instructions provided by the Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain. A formal training of the compounders was started in 1881 in Bengal. Before 1940, initially all the drugs were imported from Europe. Later, some drugs of this system began to be manufactured in India. In 1901, establishment of the Bengal Chemical and Pharmaceutical Works in Calcutta by Acharya P.C. Ray was conducted. In 1903, a small factory at Parel, Bombay, by Professor T.K. Gajjar. In 1907, Alembic Chemical Works at Baroda by Professor T.K. Gajjar. Drugs were mostly exported in crude form and imported in finished form. During World War I, the imports of drugs were cut off and resumed after the war. In absence of restrictions on quality of drugs imported, manufacturers from abroad took advantage of the situation. In the meantime, the pharmacy profession entered India almost simultaneously. For almost half a century, not much progress was noticed until B.Pharm course was started in 1937 at Banaras Hindu University and in 1944 at the Punjab University Lahore, now in Pakistan. The B.Pharm course at BHU was industry oriented, while that at Punjab University was pharmacy practice oriented. Though the profession was oriented towards pharmacy practice at the introductory stage, but as it grew, it became more industry oriented. The future prediction for the Indian pharmaceutical industry is that it is expected to become the superpower by the 21st century. In industrial development, the Indian pharmaceutical industry is ranked 4th in the world in terms of production volume and 13th in the domestic consumption value. India's industry, valued at $5.3 billion in 2005, represents less than 1% of the global pharmaceutical industry. Over the last 30 years, India's pharmaceutical industry has evolved from almost non-existent to world leader in the production of high-quality generic drugs. India has garnered a worldwide reputation for producing high-quality, low-cost generic drugs. The industry currently meets India's demands for bulk drugs and nearly all its demands for formulations, with the remainder being supplied by foreign multinational corporations. India's pharmaceutical industry is one of the fastest growing segments of the Indian economy, with an average annual growth rate of 14% during 2002 to 2005. Overall, the Indian market for pharmaceuticals is projected to grow at an average annual rate of between 15 and 20% during 2005 to 2010. The surge in production has been driven by legislative reforms, the growth in contract manufacturing and outsourcing, value-added foreign acquisitions and joint ventures, India's mastery of reverse engineering of patented drug molecules, and India's efforts to comply with its World Trade Organization trade-related intellectual property agreement obligations. When India joined the World Trade Organization in 1995, its pharmaceutical exports were valued at less than $600 million. By 2005, its exports had grown to $3.7 billion and accounted for more than 61% of industry turnover. Currently, Indian pharmaceutical companies produce between 20 to 22% of the world's generic drugs in terms of value and offer 60,000 finished medicines and nearly 400 bulk drugs used in formulations. With changes in India's patent laws in the early 1970s, Indian drug producers became experts in reverse engineering and increased its supply of less expensive copies of the world's best-selling patent-protected drugs. India's pharmaceutical industry grew and prospered in a highly regulated environment with government price controls on a significant number of formulations and bulk drugs. In January 2005, India amended its patent laws governing pharmaceuticals, bringing them into conformance with the WTO TRIPS agreement. Under the new patent law, Indian drug makers can no longer manufacture and market reverse-engineered versions of drugs that is patented by foreign drug producers. To replace sales lost to TRIPS compliance, many of India's leading pharmaceutical producers have increased their exports of generic drugs to the United States and Western Europe and entered into research and development agreements, mergers and acquisitions and other alliances with foreign pharmaceutical firms. Organization and management of a pharmacy encompasses preliminary information which includes drug designation, selection of essential medicines, drug classification, levels of use, quantitative evaluation of needs when launching a program. And the next one is layout of a pharmacy, which includes premises, characteristics of a warehouse, interior layout of a warehouse, arrangement of drugs and supplies. And the last one is management of a pharmacy, which includes organization of activities and stock management. The pharmaceutical industry in India, valued at US $40 billion, is world's third largest by overall volume and world's largest provider of generic medicines globally. With 20% and 3.5% share of total global pharmaceutical exports by volume and value respectively to more than 200 countries and territories in 2021. As of 2021, most of pharmaceuticals made in India are low-cost generic drug which comprise most of pharmaceutical export of India. Patented medicines are imported. APIs are imported from China, that is 66% it supplies by volume worth US $2.4 billion and Germany US $1.6 billion as well as from US, Italy and Singapore. To foster an Atmanirbhar Bharat by enhancing the R&D, Make in India product development and high-value production capabilities, import substitution and domestic manufacture of active pharmaceutical ingredient, the government has introduced a US $2 billion incentive program which will run from 2021 to 2022 and 2027 to 2028. In 2019, the Department of Pharmaceuticals announced that as a part of the Make in India initiative, drugs for local use and exports must have 75% and 10% local APIs respectively, and a bill of material must be produced for verification. The recent advanced technologies that also provide its benefit in pharma fields are artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics and automation. Discussing about artificial intelligence, pharma companies can implement AI in the manufacturing processes for higher productivity, improved efficiency and faster production of life-saving drugs. AI can be used to manage and improve all aspects of the manufacturing processes, that is quality control, predictive maintenance. And the next one is 3D printing. The 3D printing has become one of the most revolutionary and powerful tools serving as a technology of precise manufacturing of individually developed dosage forms, tissue engineering, and disease modeling. The current achievements include multifunctional drug delivery systems with accelerated release characteristics, adjustable and personalized dosage forms, implants and phantoms corresponding to specific patient anatomy, as well as cell-based materials for regenerative medicine. The last one is robotics and automation. Automation technologies can boost the speed of the manufacturing processes and make it safer and efficient while also reducing manpower costs. Robots are also being used to address drug shortages caused by manufacturing delays for products such as pre-filled syringes. A doctor gives life to a patient, but a pharmacist gives life to a medicine. Though the diseases prevail, with the help of all this advanced technology, we are not much behind in making the world disease-free. Since we live in the world where the diseases are never ending, the pharmacy profession may never see its dawn. Till date, pharmaceutics has merged with infotech and achieved each and every morphological motions and physiological actions. Wearables for COVID-19 detection, face masks, smart lenses, on-teeth sensors, smart textiles, microneedle patches, electronic epidermal tattoos, wristbands, smart rings, smart watches. Thank you.